I had other problems too. The day that I was captured by the cell in the circus, the reason they thought I was German is because I said the word "ja" instead of "yes." And the German word for
that word "yes."
Yes is "ja." Another time, they gave me the devil for eating with my right hand once they took the cast off. I had to eat with my left hand because right away they knew you were not a European and not
Yeah,
French.
The European style is
That's
not
right.
to put your fork down,
Yeah.
not to switch it.
So I'm down in Paris for a couple of days, and they decided it's time for us to leave. And I was taken to a place called the Electric Building. And what happened is that we met up with 6 other Americans, 7 Jews, another Frenchman, and Jack Hogue. And we boarded the train from Paris to go to Toulouse. And we got down to Toulouse and stayed there overnight. But what had happened when we got down to Toulouse, the lady that I stayed with told me that the escape route that I was going to take was called PAU, P-A-U, which would be a one-day trip over the mountains, in the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. Mm. And that whole area has been busted. The chief of police of Paris was head of the resistance there, and there were still 200 airmen left in Paris, Allied and American airmen, and they all got caught. You don't hear much about this, but if you went to the 8th Air Force Museum in Savannah, Georgia, you would learn that those 200 airmen were shot.
Oh.
And so was the chief of police. So what happened, they had to set up a whole new line to climb over the Pyrenees, which would take 4 days and 4 nights. And that line was named after me. That's why it's called Code Burgundy, because my code name was given to me by the British SOE, which is a Special Operation Executive. That was set up by Churchill to get out Allied airmen, especially when the British were fighting the Germans originally, and we weren't there. He was trying to get all his airmen back there because they were experienced, and he needed airmen. They could make the airplanes, but they needed the pilots. So that's how we got out. We got down to the Pyrenees Mountains the next day, and we started to climb over.
I have to stop you. Tell everyone what you were wearing. You had proper gear on, right?
Well, if you look at my clothes in the picture with the démarché, those are the clothes I wore.
You were in dress clothes.
And see the pair of shoes that I had, they were a couple of sizes too small.
Sunday best shoes.
That's right.
I wanted to, I mean, you did not have hiking gear.
No. None of us had any hiking gear, clothes. We didn't have water. We didn't have any food. And we were climbing over for 4 days, 4 nights, over snow, through streams and so forth. Luckily there were streams there because we get some water that way.
Right.
And we lost 1 airman up there because we were so exhausted. I was telling them, please let me stay here because I can't make it. Give me a compass and I'll find my way over. But they wouldn't do it. So 2 Americans helped pull me over the mountains. They took a stick, and I hung on with my left hand, and they kept pulling me over the mountains and down. Wow. One fellow named Jack Stead, a good friend of mine, he passed away just recently.
God bless him.
And the other gentleman now he's a full colonel. His name is Ray McLean.
Okay.
And I could thank them for the help they gave me. Then we ended up in Les, France, Les, Spain. And from there they took us a place called Andorra. And from there they took us to Lerida, Spain. And this is why I say it's a long escape.
It is a long escape.
I've come from Reims all the way through France.
You walked across Europe.
And I didn't walk across. I walked a lot, but not that far. But when we get to Lerida, they locked us up. The constabulary there put us in jail. And I was, by this time, I'm very sick. I hadn't eaten anything. And we had a major that was our commanding officer out of the 7 Americans that were there. He was the highest ranking man. He went to the commandant of the base and told the commander, we have a very sick airman and we have to have a doctor. So they took me to the prison doctor, and he said, I got to put you into our clinic. And he said, but before we do that, let me weigh you. So he weighed me. I was 87 pounds. Oh. And he said, "You're a sick boy, so we got to take good care of you." But before he finished, he said, "I got to tell you something. Did you know that the Allies landed in France?" I said, "No." He said, "They're going to get the shit kicked out of them." I said, "Doctor, you made me feel better already. I'm cured." So I went out and told the major.
That's the medicine you needed.
That's sort of medicine I needed. And the major.
And let's just clarify that. That's the D-Day invasion.
The D-Day invasion took place the last day that we were up in the Pyrenees,
right,
coming into Spain.
Okay.
But we were in France at the time. We're coming down into
I
Spain.
wanted to put in historical
That's
time
right.
frame.
Yeah. And what had happened is that 2 days after he went to, the major saw the commander of the base, they sent a representative from the American Madrid embassy, and he got us released. They took us to a place called Saragossa. And we were going over those mountain passes, unbelievable. Because when we climbed the mountains, those were 10, 12,000 foot mountains. It was one after another. Oh. That's why it took 4 days, 4 nights.
I would say.
And when they got us to Saragossa, it was the first shower we had. They took all our dirty clothes, gave me a new pair of shoes that fit, and we felt like kings. We had a nice meal at the embassy.
It had been a few months. It had been a few months before you were allowed.
3 months.
3 months
Yeah.
without bathing.
Yeah. Well, no, one other time, Mr. Ramoshe gave me a bath once.
Very nice. That's another show.
That's another show. But anyway, we went from Saragossa to Madrid. And from Madrid, we stayed at the embassy there for one night and had a banquet. And they took us by train and brought us down to La Línea, Spain. And that's right at the base of Rock of Gibraltar. And we got into the British Rock of Gibraltar, and the RAF was waiting for us. Right. That was our first release. That was our day of freedom. And the British gave us all new clothes again, and they flew us back to England. But before we left, they gave us money. And there was somebody that was over there selling watches. He said, "You take these watches, go back to England, you'll make some money with them." So I bought 3 watches. And when we landed in Bristol, England, right away the ground crew came over and was making offers for the watch. I made a few dollars.
Wow, even after all of that. Now, you had actually some information that you wanted to share with the British.
Well, of course, I had a lot of information. I knew a lot about how many planes were at certain bases. I knew the names of hundreds and hundreds of resistance workers, where they lived, how they operated, who the leaders were. I had a lot of information as to who killed who and how many men we killed from my escape. Right. They claimed that for every American they got out that way, a French resistance worker got killed. And I can believe that. The other thing is that I knew about the Holocaust that was given to me, and by this Jewish woman in Paris that gave me another ID card that I needed. She took a picture of me and faked an ID card for me with the help of the chief of police that got killed. And she told me about what happened to the people, and I reported the whole thing to the American intelligence. American intelligence, when I arrived in London, the 7 Americans walked in, and they said, "Who's Burgundy?" So here I am, 20-year-old kid. Everybody was older than I was, and I stood up, and they couldn't believe it. So they interviewed me and questioned me for 4 days. They had to find out how I got out.
It's almost impossible to imagine that you endured what you endured and survived to tell it.
That's right. So what happened is that of course they checked it with the British SOE, and they confirmed who I was, but they still didn't know whether I was part of the 401st Bomb Group, and I had to get a hold of a representative from the 401st to come down to verify who I was. And I knew the intelligence officer there. His name was Pot Fry, and he was a World War I retread, and he was a major.
Okay. And
he drove down, and he walked in. The minute he walked in, he saw me. He says, "John, nice to see you back." And he said, and I tried to salute him. He says, "From now on, I'll salute you, what you went through."
Oh, yes.
And well, he verified that I was John, and then I had to sign a secrecy document. with the with the pains of heavy penalties if I spoke to anybody like yourself, or a publisher, a newspaper reporter, anybody. In fact, my mother, my father, my two brothers, and a sister passed away without knowing the story I'm telling you right now.